And we're ready whenever you are, Mayor.
Good evening, and thank you for attending tonight's city council meeting. For those who are attending remotely, the camera in council chambers is set up to show those attending in person tonight. The platform we are using has a raised hand feature. You will notice a picture of a hand in the upper right-hand corner. When we reach the point in the meeting where the public has the opportunity to address council, you can click that button to be given your opportunity to address council. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor Tully,
Here.
Councilor Selly,
Here.
Councilor Powers,
Here.
Councilor Scamperly, Councilor Stevenson,
Here.
Councilor Trim, Councilor Weaver,
Here.
quorum present.
Councilor Smith, yes, please. We have two presentations tonight. We'll begin with the 2023 audit.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Virtually attending for us is Eric Furman and Jason Coleman from our auditing firm, Charles. And I think Eric's probably going to kick things off. So whenever you're ready, sir.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. And my name is Eric Furman. I'm a partner at Fuss Charles, and I'm responsible for signing the 2023 audit. And I'm accompanied by Jason Coleman, who is an audit principal with our firm. And he is going to primarily walk you through the presentation tonight. Jason?
So Kathy, if you could bring up the SAS 114 required communication letter, please.
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, I'm not accessing it, so could you just give me one brief moment? It's not transmitting.
Yep, no problem.
There it is. Well, I've located the file, however, it will not open.
That's okay. I can run through high level of what the letter is. Again, there's a lot of words and a lot of talking points, but I'll go through it high level. So as part of our audit, we're required to communicate with governance. It's kind of like the report card of the audit. So I'll go through a couple different of the bullet points of the letter, and then open it up for discussion. And then I'll jump into the financial statements and just touch on a couple of the highlights of the statements. So we're here to present on the draft audit results of the 2023 city audit. Management's responsible for the financial statement preparation and the numbers that go into it. We're responsible for providing an opinion on those financial statements. In any audit, there's accounting policies and principles. These are primarily described in note 1 to the financial statements. Management is responsible for these accounting policies and procedures. There was one new accounting pronouncement during the 2023 audit year, which is GASB 96, related to subscription-based information technology arrangements. A lot of words there to just basically say any software agreements that you may have can be treated as now shown on your balance sheet, your statement of net position. Similar to the 2022 audit with leases, this is now essentially treated the same way, just it's for subscription software-based arrangements as opposed to more tangible lease objects. As with any audit, there are significant accounting estimates and they're an integral part of the financial statements. We're required to evaluate those. The letter lists out 3 significant estimates, which are consistent with the prior year, and those are related to allowance for doubtful accounts on taxes receivable, the GASB 75 or OPEB actuarial valuation and assumptions, as well as GASB 68 related to the ERS and PFRS pension plans. And again, as part of the audit, our audit procedures, we go through the estimates, the assumptions that go into them, and we've determined that they're reasonable in relation to the financial statements as a whole. The next page of the letter goes into if there's any difficulties encountered in performing the audit. Pleased to report that there were no difficulties encountered during the audit. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements, you can have either. Again, there was one entry, well, two entries that were ultimately made as part of the audit in conjunction with management, and that was to just reclass the ban payment in the general fund and the capital projects fund and create a due to do from appropriately. Disagreements with management, there were no disagreements. Management was cooperative throughout the audit process. Upon approval of the draft financial statements, we'll provide management with a representation letter, which essentially says that all support and questions or inquiries that we had was either provided to us and answered truthfully. And then lastly, any other audit findings or issues can be put in this letter as well. And please report that there were no other audit findings or issues to communicate to the committee. So again, that was quick, high level, required communications with governance that we're supposed to present. Just open it up quick if anybody has any questions on what I just went over for the letter.
Any questions from council? No, I think we're good.
And then the second document, again, that's the financial statements themselves, the draft financial statements. I'll just point out a few key pages within the financial statements, but the most important from our aspect is the audit opinion. We plan to issue an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion on the 2023 city financial statements. And that's the opinion that you're looking for, stating that your numbers are materially accurate and presented. On the statement of net position on page 16 of the financial statements, this is where the GASB 96, the new accounting pronouncement, comes into play. There's a line down in the liability section of leases and subscription-based information technology arrangements. So that's just showing the liability owed based on the software agreement. And then continuing on with GASB 96 within the accounting policies on page 28, it denotes that the city adopted the new accounting pronouncement and the impact that it ultimately had on the city's financial statements. The rest of the note disclosures are consistent with prior year with the 2022 financial statements. No real overhaul or changes to those disclosures. They're consistent. And then in the back of the financial statements, there's the required supplementary information schedules, which goes through your general fund, your water fund, and your sewer fund budget to actual comparison, as well as some required schedules for GASB 75 and GASB 68 on the OPEB and pension liabilities, and just shows some of the roll forward of the liabilities year over year, as well as the different contribution amounts that go into the OPEB plan and the ERS PFRS plan. And then the last two pages of the document relate to a yellow book opinion or again, government auditing standards required opinion, and that also is clean opinion as well. Again, very high level of the statements. But open it up again if there's any questions on the financial statements.
Questions or comments? I think we just highlight for the public the changes in fund balance in the general fund, water fund, sewer fund. The total fund balance in general fund increased by $330,000 in 2023 to bring us to about $4.8 million. The water fund increased by $27,796. Bring that fund down to $3,260,000. Sewer fund, expenses, 69,964, bringing that to the fund balance to 2.65 million. Just wanted to highlight those numbers. And just make a quick comment and follow up to some of the discussion we had last week, in the presentation by Angela with regards to that. And that is in relationship to the Constitution of that, on page 13 indicates that as of December 31, 23, total indebtedness is subject to the debt limit was a little over $3 million, which is 15% of the limit. So we're very sound shape in that regard as we look to the possible projects we'll be looking at in the future. So I just wanted to follow up. Also, pleased again that the city received a clean audit opinion. So congratulate Angela and all of the staff for the work that they've done in the effort to pull all this together for our auditors. And again, it's a consistency of excellence. So appreciate that. Anything else? And again, we thank our auditors, and it looks like we are up to date. And we'll have these audits on the city website. 2023, and then we look forward to time presentation sometime in summer.
That is the plan. Right, gentlemen?
I thank you.
Mayor, if I can real quick here, the audio is really sketchy. And it's difficult to hear. The participants online are fine as far as audio, but the rest is really kind of sketchy, and you're probably all getting them as well, text messages related to it. So.
Thanks for sharing. I haven't seen one text message from.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
So the laptop that's been used for the past 5 years, it's a dinosaur. It has finally taken its last spin. And
It may very well be just the microphones. I'm not sure, but.
I'm not sure either, sir. We are using a different laptop. I did do a test session late this afternoon, and it seemed to be okay, but
You sound fine, Kathy.
so
Just a point of reference, that's all. I mean, maybe.
we'll get it worked out. We'll get all the wrinkles out before the next meeting, I assure you.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're ready to time again. Thank you. Next, we have a presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. For those following at home, you should have a document that you can pull up. It's called Propose, the Plan for Planning. And Kathy, next slide.
That one worked, sir.
Sorry?
That one worked. Theirs did not. I apologize. I apologize.
Okay, as everyone is aware, it's certainly a shock when Angela Smith left the city. Andrea Smith left the city. And I wanted just to highlight a lot of the things that she did that now the city has to absorb in different ways, shapes, or forms. And I won't go through the whole list there, but it is a large list. And then within that list, certainly sprinkle in a couple of stints as interim city manager. And it was a big lift for her on a daily basis to perform as a she did. And with her leaving, it gives us an opportunity. It's a challenge, obviously, to try and replace her, but it's an opportunity for the tool to review and reassess where our planning functions are and maybe where they should be in the future. And as your city manager, I thought that was something that we should do. On the next slide, as you can see the title there, it is time for us to review the planning department. And the way forward really is that we should get back to the basics. We should define our core functions. We should look to recruit qualified staff. We need to redevelop our institutional knowledge. When Andrea left, she certainly took with her a lot of information that way. Wish I had. And I know she's just a phone call, text message away, but redeveloping that is going to be critically important as we move forward. There are a number of projects up in the area that we still have to continue to execute and get to different stages of completion, along with some of the new projects for some of the things that we've awarded. And as always, the way forward, at least as I've said in this chair, is making sure that we prioritize local development. As far as what's been done thus far, we have done a search for talent. We cast a wide net. Not only did we apply for the director position, or we posted for the director position, we also posted for a planner 1, a planner 2, and a planner 3, just to see what talent is out there, what is the pool of talent in the planning realm, knowing that we probably wouldn't be able to replace an Andrea. We wanted to see what quality was out there to be able to come up with a plan on moving forward. We've done that. We had, I think, 5 or 6 applications come in, but only 2 were approved by civil service, and with various stages of talent and abilities. So we performed some interviews, and we can certainly talk about that later on. Other discussions we've had, think about maybe sharing the planning services with another municipality. Nothing really came about that. We thought about outsourcing as a strategy. We're looking back to a hybrid. We do have some outside firms now to get us through, but it's probably better to have somebody in City Hall to do these things and perform these tasks. And I met with different and spoke with different stakeholders saying, you know, where do you see the planning department going over the next 10 years or so, just to get a different perspective on things. And all of those, I think, were very useful in trying to determine the way forward. So I look at this as kind of a 2-step process. If you go to the next slide, please. Step 1 is to reorganize the supervision of the PACER part of PACER. Right? So PACER was planning, assessing, recreation. We'll address the P on that, the planning part, in just a moment. But the PACER core parts of supervision have already been reassigned. So we, as you know, we've hired an assessor, and the assessor will report directly to the city manager moving forward. So there's a supervisory chain of command there. Code enforcement has been reassigned to the capable hands of the fire chief, who's already taken significant ownership of that department and is working very hard to move that forward. As well as recreation being reassigned completely to DPW and Shane Brown, who's also taken great ownership in trying to move that forward. In fact, he's even, if I'm not mistaken, hired a rec director. So we are moving right along. So there are operations that need to continue, and supervision that needs to happen, and this reorganization certainly helps that. Planning tasks, however, have fallen primarily on administrative staff and the city manager at this point, augmented some by consulting firms that are doing kind of the consulting on technical matters, things that we may not have technical knowledge on, that help guide us through that we execute. And I will do most of the coordinating along with the administrative team. Additionally to that, there's a couple of other things that have fallen pretty much squarely in my office. Number one, and probably most important, is that project management. So we've got lots of different projects with the flood service line, East Davis Street, the pump stations, the FEMA docks project, the I&I project, and the incoming New York Swims, the Green Resiliency Grant. All of those are very stages of completion and need to continue that project management to move them forward. The other thing that is really important that we have to keep in mind is we need to keep thinking forward, right? That strategic planning that the planning director has been doing in the past, that can't stop. Just because we've got lots of projects going at this, we shouldn't be thinking 2, 3, 5, 10 years into the future, because the planning on that starts now. And as I will always say, economic development, I think, is critical to our efforts. And I city manager was going to take up a more on that, so critical, but it was going to be more of a partnership between the director. And now that we're in a position where we don't have that director, more effort is going to have to come from my office, which is absolutely fine. That's what we do. I guess the point of the matter is planning operations are continuing as usual, maybe a little bit slower than it should be, but we have the tools in place to be able to continue our operations while our transitions take place. So if we go to the next, thank you. We really need to recreate what a high functioning department is, right? We went from Andrea, high functioning, to now not much of a planning department at all. So what is that plan? And so I've got 4 things highlighted here on the slide. The first one we've basically done already is outsourcing those technical services. When we are able to find a planner, that planner may or may not have all the technical knowledge. So having those outsourcing firms ready to be able to support and teach and mentor are going to be very important. So there's a check mark there because that's basically been already completed. Maybe the most important function, and we all know how we rely on grants, is that it's going to be my recommendation that the city contract with a professional grant writing firm to keep that ball rolling. And as we identify the needs that we have in the city to try and augment our local funds with outside sources of funding. I have selected a firm. They're well respected, and I claim as long as council wishes to move forward with the plan that I'm presenting tonight, I'll present that contract at the next council meeting. The third plan to recreate a high functioning planning department is hiring what I call a planner 3. So planner 3 is a senior level planner that will focus on planning development. Hopefully in the near future we'll be able to evolve into that director position. Training and membership will be critical in getting them from point A to B to the directorship. But I think it's more important to find somebody who has the connection to the community and the right attitude, and we can train for skills and abilities afterwards. Of the 2 people that I've interviewed thus far, I think one of those really excels in getting that chutzpah, that care of the community. I think that we really want to try and reinvigorate. We lost it with Andrea. We want to get that back as soon as possible. The last thing I will urge council to consider is hiring that economic development position to put it into the budget. I'm happy to say that the government's executive budget did include the additional funding, and that half of this position's funding was tied to that, so we got that with a check mark. The other half of that was tied to a reimbursement for the North Star Health Alliance, and I think we can swing it without their funds if that's the way council wants to do it for 2025, but it would be my recommendation to wait a bit to make sure that the New York State adopted budget does actually include the money, and then we can talk about hiring and how we're going to fund the hiring position. But I think it's critically important that we set the stage of economic development, getting somebody in the city to the city council and to the city manager for helping develop our businesses, our business community. I think is critically important to the future of the city. So those are kind of the 4 things on a high level, I would say, is how we move forward in the planning department. Whenever I propose something to you, I will always give you the fiscal implications as I see them. And so on this slide 7, I have on the left-hand side the total planning and grant writing appropriations for 2025 appropriated budget. It's just over $237,000. On the right-hand side is the proposed planning plan and how the resources were reallocated. And what you can see there is the estimated cost of my plan for 2025 is about $219,000, so it's about $18,000 to good. It's always good to have yourself a cushion because you never know exactly what's going to happen. We need additional technical expertise. Maybe we get a big project. It's nice to have those extra appropriations. Should the council move in the direction of partnering with the hospital and getting reimbursement for that economic development, that amount goes from $1,000 to just over $1,000. So there is a cushion either way you look at it for 2025. We should also look at implications for future years. So if we move on to what I did do a fiscal implication for 2026. The numbers are there, so I won't go through each and every one of them. You can see the comparison of the 2026 estimate versus the 2025 budget, which is how you compare one year to the next. You can see that the cost for 2026 would be about $32,000 more next year. But if you factor in the reimbursement from the hospital at just over $42,000, you can see that we're in the good by $10,400, which makes this plan financially sustainable, at least in the next. With the support of council, next steps are pretty simple. Next meeting, we will present a contract for grant writing services. At that point in time, we will develop our 2025 grant strategy from March through May. CFAs will open probably middle of May, closes at the end of July. We'll onboard and hire a couple of positions there, the planner and economic development position, and we will hit the ground running. So that, in a nutshell, is kind of my thoughts and plans for what we do with the planner department and the planner position. I just thought that it was important for both council and public to get a kind of a high-level overview of what my mindset was and how we should move forward. But council doesn't want to go in this direction. So I figured, hey, let's put it out there. Give a presentation, here's some of my thoughts, I did answer any questions. However, the council wishes to proceed.
Thank you for the presentation. Questions or comments?
Is this the second for this economic development person?
Sure, that's a prorated salary where they started.
So that.
Yeah, that's 60,000. It's kind of how I'm estimating that. I'm not sure. You can also think of the planner, that number is a prorated number from that June to the beginning of the year.
I think you're. I do have one comment. It's a wonderful job. Definitely need to avoid saddling any one person with that many duties and responsibilities. We got to a point that everything that was going on in City Hall seems broken for the lack of personnel. You know, she really, we got to a point where we just have people, she just picked everything up. That doesn't happen. You know. And the other thing is, our financial situation, now, for a minute, I would really like to see reestablish our first recreation fund. But at this time, that's not feasible.
So I also think you're on the right track with everything. I love the proposal. Spells everything out. I'm very pleased that you're looking in the future with future budget implications. Could you speak a little bit about the reimbursement for Northstar?
Sure. I was fortunate enough to meet with the CEO and the COO early in my tenure. And one of the things they talked to me about was the fact that in Costain, they pay 50% of the cost of an economic development person there. Full wrap-up salary and fringe. And he offered the same thing to the city. I do believe during our budget process, we talked a little bit about that. I would love to fund that position in the budget completely with our own funds. I just wasn't able to squeeze that in and still deliver, all the other services that wanted to, and the slight property tax decrease that we were able to. So I have not pursued this plan with them since our initial conversations. Maybe it's not on the table anymore, but if council is not interested in moving in that direction, there's no sense in opening that up. So I figured I'd just get the thoughts of council. I wouldn't see why they would withdraw that offer, especially since they're doing it in the community and they're certainly located here in the city. But if council is interested in pursuing that, I'm more than happy to spearhead that.
I think you should pursue it. But I'm glad to hear you say sort of our own good deals for
And what's the motivation for them to pay for half this position or the whole position cost in?
Well, economic development raises all boats, right? So if we have a more developed community, potentially that will attract more talent, making them a more attractive place for doctors, nurses, professionals, technicians to come in. So there is a selfish motivation along with a community motivation, part of the community and we want to help. So there's certainly a selfless and selfish motivation there.
Any other comments? All of your comments here, looking at page 2. The responsibilities that have been played in that office the last 2 years. Just want to say, so I think the proposal is that is reasonable, can help achieve longer-term goals. I would note that both Council Stevens and I had the opportunity to attend the third council and legislative forum last week in Albany. And in the discussion pertaining to the executive budget, particularly as it relates to the game fund, there was a lot of expression of appreciation that this made the executive budget that anybody the final state budget there. And what this is, provides an additional $20,000 that we didn't have unrestricted state funding, which is state funding to municipalities prior to last year. Hadn't increased. A lot of lobbying by many municipalities across the state to try to get this changed. And so last year there was an additional $50 million put into the budget. Temporary aid funding. And my perspective, unfortunately, the title is still the same, temporary. So lobbying right now is to try to get this a permanent funding source for municipalities and down the road try to get back to this sort of inflationary increase so that we don't get stuck on a number in operations with city government or local homes this year. So again, appreciation to the government for including it in the executive proposal. Right? Anybody else? Thank you. We do not have any public hearings tonight, so this is a personal appearance. At this time, if anyone attending in person would like to address council, please come out to the podium. You have 5 minutes.
Hi, my name's Erin Thai. I'm daycare provider. Here's 34 letters sent out with the water sewer deal from the big 1988 new rule that came out 4 years ago. 12 of them were daycare providers. 3 were businesses that were already paying double, not 20 to 30 businesses. There's only 3 on the list. Then we have 19 other businesses on the list. One address and name really sticks out to me really good. Because this address, the person sits up here, had a decision of making of how things can change. And the address in the meantime was over 34 letters that come out. All we ask is to be consistent and fair. You want revenue, change your sidewalk rule. Don't do 72 hours, do 48. That'll be revenue. There's sidewalks out there now that are not. Not all businesses use as much water. There's businesses out there that use more water 24/7 than they do. There's businesses that have people in their homes 24/7 that get paid for that. We're only open 10 hours a day at that. Maybe grandfather people in because you're not being consistent with it all. There's a lot of gray areas. All we ask is consistent, grandfather's in, I don't know how he's gonna handle this, because there's still a lot of barriers here. And not everyone returns the same. I believe 15 came back family unit. So there's too much up in there. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, if anyone attending remotely would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature. The city clerk will recognize that you one person at a time, and that's five.
I do not see any hands raised, Mayor.
So that brings us to correspondence. We have any correspondence?
We do not.
Next, our consent agenda. That the claims is enumerated in general fund warrant 3-2025, in the amount of $1,349,721.20. And library warrant number 3-2025, in the amount of $0. Capital fund warrant 3-2025, in the amount of $59,150. And community development fund warrant number 3-2025, in the amount of $45. And community renewal fund warrant 3-2025, in the amount of $0, as of the being the same hereby are ordered and made by so moved. Yeah, please call the roll.
Mayor Tulley, Counselor Selly, Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson, Counselor Trim, Counselor Weaver, approved.
We have two appointments tonight. First, I make a motion to reappoint John Wilson to a 5-year term on the Board of Assessment and Review, term begin February 10, 2025, then December 31, 2029. So moved. Second. Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Stevenson, Counselor Trim, Counselor Weaver,
Yes.
Mayor Tulley, Counselor Selly, Counselor Powers,
Yes.
approved.
Next, Clark, to fill the unexpired term of Dean Listerman on the planning board. Term to begin February 10, 2025, and December 31, 2029. That's so moved. Second. Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Trim, Counselor Weaver, Mayor Tulley, Counselor Selly, Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson, approved.
Thank you, Mayor. A resolution authorizing the issuance of a bond ordinance in the amount of $2,688,300 for the preparation of a light service line inventory.
Sir, you're on the wrong.
Am I?
Yes, I'm sorry. Should be bill number 14.
A resolution calling for a public hearing regarding orders to amend chapter 7-22 of the municipal code entitled Ethics Common Code.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Questions or comments? I recognize this is a motion for the public hearing. But I would suggest that we consider and bringing the final version to us, whether it be that we add language so that the ethics complaints filing at the city managers or unpaid municipal officers shall be referred to the city council. The code of ethics does cover our public officers serving on boards and commissions. And so, since there's something to go around, I think that there needs to be a reference there. And then just a side note that once this is enacted, that we'll see managers assistants develop the rules and regulations for consideration for adoption by the Board of Ethics. Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Weaver, Mayor Tulley, Counselor Selly, Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson, Counselor Trim, approved.
And that's when the reason we read by
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, Council. So we're looking to, ask the council to, for resolution to delete, 199-39 of the Ogdensburg Municipal Code. which is an economic development zone exemption. Sorry.
Yeah, this is-
I'm sorry. I'll make that motion.
Okay, now please elaborate.
All right. So, we had an exemption and it's on our local, code, for this developmental zone, exemption. As of June 30th, 2010, New York State did away with this. They no longer recognizes it. So, as a due diligence, we did look to make sure that there is no one in Augsburg receiving this exemption. And there is not, so we just like to have it removed. It's no longer a valid exemption.
Understood. Questions or comments?
Makes sense, glad to see that.
Thank you. Yeah, please call the roll.
Mayor Tully, Counselor Selly, Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson, Counselor Trim, Counselor Weaver, approved.
Our next item of business.
All right, I think I'm ready this time. The resolution authorizing the issuance of a bond ordinance in the amount of $2,688,300 for the preparation of that service line.
So here.
So,
Questions or comments?
This is just procedural, the things we are required to do, ESC, to be able to get a grant contract. So, yeah.
Yeah, please call the roll.
Counselor Selly, Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
yes.
Counselor Trim, Counselor Weaver, Mayor Tully, approved.
Our next item of business, we read by Public Works Director Chef Brown.
A resolution allowing the St. Lawrence County Department of Highways to be held harmless for providing shared services such as paving, signage, road striping, blasting, and other routine maintenance activities to the city of Oxford.
So we figured we should use this.
Second.
Questions or comments? Pretty straightforward. Please, thank you. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Trim, Counselor Weaver, Mayor Tully, Counselor Selly, approved.
Our next item of business, we read by City Manager Dr.
A resolution support authorization for a clean water grant agreement for the East David Street project.
I'll make that motion.
Questions or comments? Yeah, please call the roll.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Trim, Counselor Weaver, Mayor Tully, Counselor Selly, Counselor Powers,
Yes.
approved.
Our next item of business, we read by City Controller.
Good evening, this is a resolution authorizing the city manager to sponsor the Augsburg Volunteer Rescue Squad for participation in the St. Lawrence County Workers' Compensation Insurance Program.
Questions or comments?
We've done this in the past. This is new. The city was approached by OVRS to join into the policy that we have, a self-insured policy through the county to cover the workers' compensation. As somewhat, we're partially on the ones that volunteer and non-volunteer workers required to sponsor if they want. But the cost in the future will be borne by OVRS. This is just bringing that in, sponsoring that plan.
The city has come to a volunteers for years. Recently, the county attorney told us we could go also. We asked the city to do that. Mr. Carlos agreed. Essentially, the city of the rescue squad, Kirk, bills $7,000 a year. County has to was about 9. City very increase improvement to our job.
I have one additional question, Your Honor. So when, I have received a number of calls from citizens about the chargeback portion of the city tax bill. And I believe I understood that part of that is the additional services that the county provides to the city, such as the workers' compensation. That will have no impact on this because the rescue squad will be covered at that point. Right? So our citizens won't see additional chargeback.
That is correct, that citizens will not see an additional charge, dollar amount to them. And that's for the portion attributable to OBR. Correct. How the logistics of the city goes about building, or that company goes about billing that has versus the reimbursement, net dollars will be the same too.
Okay, I'm in favor of this. I just want to make sure that that's new and that information.
Yes, we were very clear at the setup of this, that it's not an additional cost through the tax bill to the residents.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Jack, can you call it?
Counselor Trim, Counselor Weaver, Mayor Tully,
Yeah.
Counselor Selly, Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson, approved.
Next one will be
The resolution to accept the 2023 audit.
I'll make that motion.
questions or comments? Jack, can you call it?
Counselor Weaver, Mayor Tully, Counselor Selly, Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Trim, approved.
That brings us to old business, and the first item will be,
Certainly, the details of the letter that went out have already been addressed through the personal appearance, so no need to go over those numbers again, but council should know that the letters have gone out, the due date of the letters that being returned, notarized was the 31st of January, so at this point in time, we have a list of folks who have responded, those who did not respond, those to the increase in fees for water and sewer. I'll make the point again, that this was made before, that the increase is $165 for the year. So I don't think it's the largest increase, certainly much more reduced than what double water sewer was. So I just thought maybe if there was an opportunity or some need to ask questions, I thought it was good. Again, specifics.
any questions or comments? No? Okay, thank you for the update. Any other old business? That brings us to financial discussion, then we'll begin with city manager comment.
Sure, there was a section of Maple City Trail that, under my authorization, DPW, I won't say it closed, but has not been maintaining with the large amount of snow, as I said, we've been receiving. There was some hubbub in the community about that. Wanted to make sure that the public and council was aware of the reasoning for this decision. It's really employee and the public safety. There's a pitch on that property at Hill, and we have some concerns about keeping our people safe if they're plowing that. Even our illustrious director of public works, I'm told, you end up in an additional point in time. So that area can be very precious, and I didn't want to put anybody in harm's way. What we thought about doing was putting a sign is up that basically, travel at your own risk on those that type of in that area. We did originally put close for the season sign as a temporary measure. I think that got some people upset. The correct sign is up now. I just wanted to let the public council know the reasoning for why that section of the trail is closed. It's strictly a safety issue, and I'll let anybody get hurt, whether it be one of our employees or our citizens.
Can you elaborate exactly where that section of the trail is?
I'm going to defer to Director DPW since I've only been here for 7 months.
Just so the public is there, or that maybe doesn't walk in it right.
Yeah, it's actually the entrance below Spruce Street. That Spruce and that in the corner right there. United Public Property up there. We have an easement to go across the property.
Now that's really steep, it's almost like a staircase.
That's your actual section, it goes up and down.
Yes, the trail's opened up.
Still the access, Lake Street.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I think that's a good call.
Any other business discussion?
Just one, case, I'm not sure if Mayor can be invited or not, but that'll is coming up, February 22nd and 23rd, so check out the Facebook page, Foresight Rentals, or, and pretty exciting to see this. Downtown Oxford area, there's a lot of battles that go on, so I would say you should check it out. It's cool.
Thank you, Jim, for reminding us of that. Anyone else? I just want to make a comment, I'm sure, do the two-day news reports or with regards to the National Guard, their efforts to try to recruit 30 or more new enrollees and enlistees for the National Guard North Country, and if that goal was achieved, there's a possibility that a National Guard presence to be restored to Garland. So I had the opportunity, I was invited to tour the facility with John Warren and two recruiters for the National Guard. It's still a very structurally sound building, a lot of history there, registered, and we're making efforts working with the village of Potsdam, trying to make sure we protect that by taking advantage of the Potsdam sandstone as one of the important site center buildings. The village of Potsdam, to the Lionsburg, are sharing sandstone becomes available. You know, so again, for those who think they might have interest in serving our country, so state, then might consider the National Guard. If you want to contact me, contact me. The card for recruiters I was working with. Exciting opportunity, because one of the goals is not only to start National Guard, but building available usually run a city with that place that we have one. That hasn't happened since 2022 when we relocated from Oxford to Morrison. So I just want to represent. That brings us to citizen participation. At this time, any person would like to address council, please come down to the podium.
Hello, my name is Kylie Morrow. I'm a child care provider here in Ogdensburg. I also received the letters that went out to the home businesses or potential home businesses. I just wanted to piggyback off of what Kaya said. Not everyone has a DBA. Also, since voting, it has come to my attention that council members also have potential home businesses that weren't included in the letters. And just wondering why they didn't sustain themselves from voting on the issue. It seems that the council did interest to have a home business and then create a new fee for home businesses, also vote on something for home businesses. I also emailed very truly prior to the letters, the date where letters to receive that. And we stated that New York State Social Services would be the entity to review what I was questioning, and I was wondering if New York State Social Services was at all contacted when creating this potential new bill. I made consistently for those children that are in our care by St. Lawrence County currently because of a shortage of staff in St. Lawrence County. So while, yes, I understand it's such a small fee in the grand scheme of things, but when we're already not getting paid in full for our services that we're providing to these children who are in need of these services, the assistance getting from the county, but is also creating an extra financial burden on us. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, if anyone attending remotely would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature. The city clerk will recognize that mutual person time and will have to.
I do not see any hands raised, Mayor.
So brings us to resolutions for executive session. Whereas city manager Tyler Cronin requested executive session with items of the office of the city council to discuss the proposed passing of litigation, whereas the meeting clause of the city council to adjourn the executive session for such purpose. Now therefore be it resolved that the council adjourn the executive session to discuss the proposed passing of litigation, and be it further resolved that any action resulting from the executive session shall be taken in session and so.
Second.
Mayor Tully. Counselor Selly. Counselor Powers.
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson. Counselor Trim. Counselor Weaver.
Yes.
Approved.
Resolution to adjourn the executive session, whereas city criminals, executive session, gathering the city council to discuss matters leading to the appointment, promotion, dismissal, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. And whereas New York State open meeting law permits city council to adjourn the executive session for such purpose. Now therefore be it resolved, the city council adjourn the executive session to discuss matters leading to the appointment, promotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. Be it further resolved that any action resulting from this executive session shall be taken in open session. I so move. Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Selly. Counselor Powers.
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson. Counselor Trim. Counselor Weaver. Mayor Tully. Approved.
And I'll just make note that there'll be two issues discussed in this executive session. The first one will be by city manager Tyler Cronin, and public works director Shane Brown, our attorney to join us. And then the second issue is city manager Tyler Cronin, or we do not anticipate any action coming out of the executive session. I will make a motion to adjourn the executive session. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?